Hey everyone! Welcome back to yet another top 5 announcement for the monthly challenge, this time for Onyx Data. So, how are you doing, everyone? How's the day going so far? And most importantly, what are your predictions? Do you think you're going to see yourself in the top 5? Hey, Rigoberto. All right, as always, let's just give a minute for people to join in, to start the stream, to get set ready, coffee, tea, whatever it is that you enjoy, just to have something to do whilst watching the webinar, seeing the feedback, seeing what's the top 5, and of course, just having a good time. So we'll just give a moment. I mean, whilst we're doing that, what we can do is go through the agenda, right? So, as always, what this session is all about is essentially we're going through the top 5 submissions for the Onyx Data November Challenge. And this is what we do every single month. We go through the monthly challenge top 5 submissions and give you a little bit of feedback on what we think about these reports. What could be improved, what's really, let's say, in a great way visualized or essentially accomplished in a great way. So the whole idea about this is to give back something to you, not just tell you, it's a great report, see you next time, right? To give you something else for, especially for the newer attendees who are starting to get into Power BI, how to build reports and everything. This is a great way on how you can learn directly from actual reports to see how these things are being noticed, what we take into consideration, how the navigation works, and everything else like that. So feedback is always going to be provided to you. So we're going to be revealing the top 5. That's the main one of the main things that we're going to do here. We're going to discuss every single one of these top 5 reports. We're going to talk about, like I said, what's good, what's bad, and so forth. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment. Just whatever it is regarding the challenge, something else. And at the end of the announcement, we're going to go through the Q&A and just make sure that we try to answer every single one of them. If for whatever reason we either run out of time or I just don't have an answer straight away, what I can do is we can get back to you afterwards, right? So that's another option you have. If you have any other questions that you decide to ask after the webinar is already over, the one thing that you can do is remember that you have the opportunity to reach out to our team by writing an email to webinars@zoomcharts.com. So that's another channel that you can utilize. And of course, the final and the most important part about this whole event is announcing who's going to be the winner. So there are 5 reports. We're going to be announcing which one of the 5 is being announced as the best report this month and who's going away with the additional prizes. So that's what we're going to do here today. Hey, Ms. Nar. Yep, Rigoberto. Doing good, my man. Just visuals needs. No, it's of course Einar. It's completely understandable. It's the same way as it is with any other sort of native visual, right? Once you get it into the report, it's not like you straight away know how to utilize it. You're just starting to go step by step, playing around with the x-axis, with the y-axis, with the columns, bars, lines, whatever it is. And the one thing that I can definitely tell you about ZoomCharts visuals is it might seem that they're relatively simple, but there's a lot of complexity in them. There's a lot of formatting options. There's a lot of features that sort of allow you to overlap things on top of each other. So there's a lot of interesting approaches that you can do there. Like just as an example, right? We have the combo visual. So the combo visual itself is essentially a visual that allows you to combine columns, lines, and areas. And it allows you to create more than 100 variations of different charts. Stacked columns, clustered columns, columns with lines, areas, just a bunch of different combinations. And if you want to go a little bit more into complex things, you can even create things like bucks and whiskers, candlesticks, and things like that. So a lot of flexibility, but with a lot of flexibility comes great responsibility, and that is to learn the settings and to figure out how they work. But the good thing is that we provide a lot of materials as well. You have the ZoomCharts Academy that allows you to go through the guided tours. You have sample reports. You have report example galleries. So there's documentation. There's a lot of different material that's out there that helps you just to understand how exactly to utilize the tool. But if you ever get stuck, one thing that I will always encourage you to do is just reach out. The worst thing that can happen is you don't get an answer straight away, for example. But if you reach out, there's a good chance that you're going to get an answer with steps X, Y, and Z in order to achieve what you wanted to do. Or at least, get an answer that states, hey, unfortunately, this is not currently available, which is better than sitting at the visual for like 2-3 hours just to realize, okay, yeah, it seems like it's not doable right now. So be cautious about your time as well. And if you ever get stuck, reach out. That's simple as that. It really is that simple. What else? I'm attending this event for the first time. I look forward to learning new things from the experts. Well, thank you, thank you. And I hope that you can learn something new. If not, then I'm doing something wrong, definitely. So, I think without further ado, if you guys are ready, we can start to go through the top five. What do you think? Thumbs up, thumbs down? What's the feeling? Should we do it? We should. Hi, Omar. All right. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is open up the first submission that has gotten into the top five. Hey, David. Let's go ahead and open up the first one. Conveniently, the report art already knows who this is, but I conveniently open up this because it's, just to create a bit of a suspension. But the first submission that has gotten itself into the top five is from Onkar Bhise. So congratulations, Onkar, in getting into the top five. So we're going to take a closer look at the report and see what has been done and what things are, sort of utilized in a gray way, what things should be taken into consideration a little bit more. But before we do that, actually, few things that I wanted to quickly mention. Two facts, basically, right? First of all, from these top five submissions, three of them have never been previously in the top five. So two of them have previously been at least in the top five. And for Ankar, the one thing that I can mention is that this is his sixth submission, which just shows you guys that persistence is key, right? You want to make sure that you learn something new, you improve, and you just create better reports based on that. All right, let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So, first of all, what I most definitely love about this report, and yeah, of course, if you want to check these reports out by yourself, you can find these reports in our ZoomCharts page. There's going to be a link in the comment section as well, so for convenience. And if you want to just check it out on your phone, there's a QR code right there in the top left, I think, for you guys as well. So if you scan it, that's going to take you to the report. So multiple ways on how to get there, right? We're also learning, trying out new things. So for the report, the first thing that I absolutely love about this, and I think it's a very great addition to the report itself, not just if you use ZoomCharts tools, but in general, it's this filtering capability right here. And what I mean by this filtering capability is the following. First of all, it allows you to count the number of active filters being currently applied to the report. So for example, just to showcase it, if I select, let's say, skincare as one of the dimensions I want to investigate further, you can see that there's one filter being applied. So this allows the user to very quickly understand whether or not something has been filtered, right? It's a great visual way on how to represent this, whether or not he should be understanding that this is the whole representation or is it a specific dimension. Now, if I actually click on filters, what this is going to do, it's actually going to open up an additional tab with additional dimensions that I can cross filter. So for example, I can say that, hey, we already have the product type skincare. This is filter out from this here. Then I want to actually focus on a particular supplier, which is going to be supplier 3, and warehouse location. Hopefully I get this correct as well. Supplier 3, Bangalore, apply slicers. Get back to the report, and you can see currently 3 filters are being applied, and this is the result from that. So it's a really cool visual way on how to showcase that information without being it all over the place, right? We could theoretically use dynamic titles as well, but this is just a very simple way on how to approach this. The one thing that I personally think could be done here to make this even better is, for example, whenever I hover over, it would be a little bit more difficult, but if I open up the panel, for example, have it somewhere around here, let's say where you have the filters, just showcase the currently active filters so that the user knows exactly what has been filtered out, right? It's just a quick guide, but I'm not saying that it's necessary. It's a great way on how to enhance this, but this is already a great way on how it's already done currently. So kudos to you, Onkar, for doing this. This is a really good idea and utilization of the bookmarks and different panels that you can showcase. So that's one of it. We can see that he also utilized field parameters just to allow the user to switch between different values. And remember, guys, the field parameters is a great way on how to allow the user to switch between the values without the necessity of recreating the same chart 6 times on the same page and just making everything overcrowded. Save space, give the user a little bit of peace of mind, and just allow him to choose what he sees where. It's similar done right here, right? For example, you can switch between the revenue or sales volume, and you can focus either on the bottom 15 or the top 15. So these are completely two different approaches, but it allows the user to just play around. It's a simple way, and it gives you a clear view of everything. Um, so for this page, those would be the cool things that I would say. The one thing that I would be cautious about is I'd say in this case, it's just an unfortunate data set. But if it is the case, just to make things a little bit simpler, first of all, whenever you have numbers, make sure that they have the correct formatting, right? I know it's not too difficult because it's 46,099 sort of sales volume is for 46,099, but having that thousand separator would just make it a little bit easier for people to read this. It's a very simple, quick fix that you don't have to spend a lot of time doing, but it helps again, it helps the end user. Think about the end user. You're not going to be the one probably utilizing the report. They are going to be the ones. So this is a very quick fix, but just something to note. And the other thing is, like I said, it's unfortunately just a data set, but since we had 100 products, so basically the percentage is going to be exactly the same as the value. So in this case, since it is exactly the same, what I would have done probably is hidden the value count and just left the percentages. Because the donut chart per se shows a part of whole, so it shows how much percentage of 100 it takes. So percentages would be the primary key that I want to showcase. If we would have more than 100 products, this would be a better way to represent because it would show me the actual value plus the percentage. It's just in this particular case, I would just keep the percentages. Small little comments. Like I said, a lot of the things that I'm going to be mentioning are not going to be major changes in the report. Those are small little adjustments, but they just make a lot of difference, right? So that's one of them. Now, if we go to the supply chain, you can see the one thing that I like as well is that the overall layout of things is being kept the same. Sure, we have slight adjustments in the sizes, for example, for the boxes and so forth, but overall it feels like it's an extension of what we were previously looking at. So it doesn't feel like it's a completely different page, completely different layout. It's just small modifications, right? So that's one amazing thing that's also been done here. A quick oversight maybe, or just the fact that scaling models weren't taken into account, but you can see it right here, for example. Order quantity has been shortened. It fits nicely. Manufacturing capacity, yeah. Manufacturing costs, good. Manufacturing time, cool. Procurement, D. Something, right? And if I select it, then it's just procurement. So maybe play around with the sizes of the fonts. Maybe make the buttons itself slightly bigger so it can break the text in 2 lines. So just few ideas and things I'm noticing. And like I said, it's not that it breaks the report. It's just bits and pieces that allow you to kind of have a better representation and feeling about everything. So that's one of it. Logistics, let's go there. We can see that here the layout has been switched, but that's because the analysis switches away on how it's being represented. So here we're focusing a lot more on these dimensions, and these are essentially a further on explanation of what's available. So that's one thing. And if we, for example, apply the same, you can see here, there are multiple drill down levels. So carrier, route, transport mode. So if I select one, you can see that the table essentially allows me to understand the path, which is the first thing that when I went through this in my mind, it was like, we really wish he would somehow show me what have I selected here previously, but he's done that with the table. It tells me the whole story. I got here from selecting a warehouse of Calcutta. I chose the route, well, routes here. So for example, maybe move them around a bit. So it follows the same logic, but I can essentially get the same result from looking at the table. So this was also a great execution on that. Nothing against that. And record view is a great way to just showcase individual entries. And the reason why I think in showing these entries is still something that we need to take a look at some point is And I believe every single one of us has already kind of come across this. If not yet, you'll come across this eventually. As much as we love to get away from tables, you're not going to get away from them. It's an essential part of data analysis. So learning how to format tables, having a page which showcases individual entries is also still great. What I would have done probably in this particular instance is, since it's a record page, it essentially talks about every single entry. So what I would have done is made sure that the record page is also accessible as a drill through page. Now, what I mean by this is, for example, let's say I'm sitting on an overview page, right? And I say that, hey, I want to choose at a warehouse which is in Delhi. I want to also focus on the cosmetic segment. And based on this, I want to see the individual entries. In this case, we don't really see anything, but in order to do this, I would have to go here, open up the filters, reapply the filters. So it's a lot of unnecessary work. So if you would make it a drill through page, I could just right click and drill through to the record page. So that's one thing that I would probably also adjust just slightly. And one thing that I just noticed, I didn't see it at first, maybe it's not even an issue. It's just a moment I got it. Well, there we go. So remember, guys, every single element that you create has visual headers. Visual headers are those small icons that you see on top of the visual, right? Focus mode and, for example, filters. For elements that are not going to be somewhere where you need to call or see one or the other, like for example, right here, you can see we have the filters. I don't think the person is going to really check the filters, and it kind of gets on top of the visual, so I would probably just disable visual headers. So this is something you can do from visual formatting. So disabling them would make it even better. Other than that, I'd say it's a very simple report, which I love. It works just perfectly. There's no issues with it. The filtering is amazing. The only other thing maybe to take into consideration is sorry, the interaction across the charts. Now, what I mean by this is, for example, if I select hair care, you can see that it's utilizing highlighting, which is one of the capabilities that you can enable. But the issue with the highlight is that even though it helps you in a lot of situations just to see how much from the total, it can also result in an unwanted behavior. And in this case, the unwanted behavior is that I'm looking based on revenue on the bottom 15 cases, and I can see that none of them were here. So the question is, why is this even here? Or alternatively, if you apply multiple filters, you can see that the highlights can become very small, and at some point then essentially can become obsolete. So it's kind of hard to even see that there is a highlight. So always just double check and make sure that the cross-chart interaction that you have chosen, whether filtering or highlighting, that it supports the case that you wanted to showcase there. But yeah, other than that, it's an amazing report. Congratulations, Onkar, on getting into the top 5. And I'm looking forward to your next reports. This is a good pace you're taking on. So congratulations again, man. All right, next one. So the next report that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Misha Riaz. So congratulations, Misha, on getting into the top 5. So let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So the one thing that I like about this report is the feeling that you get from it, that there's a little bit more breathing space, right? It's not too overcrowded. Sure, there's different visuals, there's different colors, but there's still enough room to kind of go through it and read the individual segments of it. We have 3 different pages which showcase different parameters. We have utilized the bookmarks to essentially switch between different charts. So for example, in this case, we're looking at revenue by supplier and product type, whereas in this case, orders by supplier and product type. These could be also used as, for example, field parameters, but in this case, the author decided to go with a bookmark. So basically a visual switch principle. So which one suits you better? You choose. There's nothing wrong with one or the other. The one thing that I like about this one in particular is these informational icons. Now, I would probably say that maybe design-wise, I would make them look slightly different to kind of make it stand out a bit more, maybe, or just make it a little bit smaller and just add it as, as you typically have in documents, you have the asterisk, right? The star. So having something like that maybe. But essentially, whenever you hover over it, it gives you an insight on every single one of the visuals. I hover here, I don't know exactly what it tells me. It tells you the highest revenue generated by this. You come across here, it tells you again a quick overview and a bit of insight. So it's a great way on how to essentially guide the user to understand what is the most important part from this chart. Sure, the person who ordered the report is going to understand this, but for the rest of us, well, this helps a lot. So that's an amazing addition to the chart. So very, very well done by you, Misha. What else? The one thing that I would be very cautious, and this is actually an issue that a lot of you are still making in your reports, so be very careful about this one. And I'm not going to hold it against you because it's a common mistake and you can easily fix this. But whenever you showcase a lot of different charts, so in this case, for example, since you have 6 different charts, you should have at least 6 different dimensions, which isn't the value, but the physical category that you're utilizing or showcasing there. So in this case, for example, you can see we're seeing revenue by supplier and product type. And here we have production quantity versus products sold by supplier as well. So what's going to happen if I choose a supplier here? That's going to cross-chart filter everything once Power BI decides to actually pass the filter. You can see that I'm left with just a single one. So from a user perspective, it just feels like wasted space, right? So what I would have probably done here is just kept it as field parameters, the ability to switch between those different views and different metrics, but keep separate dimension available in every single one of them, just to kind of allow the user to play around with the things a bit more, right? That's one thing. The other thing is whenever you're assigning a color to something, be very careful about what color you're assigning to what. In this case, for example, we can see that there's conditional coloring applied. Basically, maximum color is going to be the strongest, whereas the minimum color is going to be the lightest. So that's fine. But if we move over, we can see that cosmetics is red, hair care is black, skincare is light blue, whereas now production volumes is red, whereas now revenue across different customers. So it feels like the color itself has no physical, not physical, but actual meaning. It gives you an instance or indication of things, but it's not a particular meaning to it. So be careful when you're doing this with the categories and the colors. And it's just a common mistake, so I'm not gonna hold it up against you. So what else? If we go to the next page, we can see that there is also, again, multiple cam. I'm sorry, I'm just losing my words suddenly. Multiple visuals are using the same dimension. Same, for example, right here, we can see transportation modes. So if I would select something here, just one single would be left here. So just in some cases, what you can also actually do is instead of having them completely separately, add the dimension being used as a part of a single block. Visually, that would allow the user to, for example, separate things and understand that these are going to be talking about the same thing, and just disable cross-chart filtering between these two particular visuals. These visuals still allow you to cross-filter information for the rest of the report, but not for these two visuals in between. So there are multiple ways on how this could be handled, essentially. So that's one of them. What else? I like the design of the KPI cards. It's very sleek, simple, yet efficient. But what I would probably most wanted to have here is actually maybe different KPI cards, because it seems like we're focusing on one thing here, right? We're focusing on something else here, but the cards are always staying the same. So that's something to take into account as well. I, of course, love the use of scatterplot. And good scatterplot is always good. So this just allows you to see, for example, based on defect rates. So different approaches have been taken. The most important comment that I would say is something for every single one of you to take into account is the following. Whenever you create page navigation, give me an understanding of what these pages actually represent, right? So my quick understanding, this is a cart. So that's my current cart. That's a calendar, and that's maybe entries like row level data, because there is no tooltip for these, so I don't know exactly what they do. And if I move between the pages, you can see it's also the same title. So explain to the user what he's currently looking at. But other than that, congratulations on getting into the top 5. It's a really good report. It's simple yet efficient. So congratulations again on getting into the top 5. So let's go to the next one. The next submission that has gotten itself into the top 5 is from, come on, not the full name, but is from Mr. Chakradhar. Congratulations to you, man. Yeah, fun fact actually, I forgot to mention for Misha, a fun fact is that this is his third time participating in the challenge, and he's also actually been a previous winner in one of the previous challenges. So that's for him. As for Mr. Chakandra, this is his first time into the top 5. So a little round of applause for him as well, right? It's an achievement to get into the top 5. It's an achievement to also win. But also getting into the top 5 is the first step there. So you never know. All right, let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So one comment that I had from the team that were also helping me to evaluate these reports was something to tell every single one of you and for you guys to listen to this carefully. Intro pages are not a bad thing if they are utilized correctly, meaning that that informational page or intro page has something to add to the report, right? In this case, for example, it just explains to us what is the objective of the report and what are we looking at. The company details allows me to quickly understand, for example, an overall situation of the company. So there's some explanation as to what I'm about to dive into. But what happened in a lot of the submissions is you had created an intro page, basically, which was a starting page to the report, which visually was completely different color palettes, completely different design for the buttons and everything. And there's only one thing you can do is basically go to report. Please don't make those pages. They add absolutely nothing to the report and is just an unnecessary step for the user to go through and just to get to the actual report. Because remember, every single time we open up a report, the data has to be loaded, right? So save him a little bit of a headache and just allow him to straight away open up the actual report and see the actual data and play around with it. So unless it's adding any value, do not create the intro pages. Only if there is some added benefit to it. Okay? All right, so for the report, the first thing that I can definitely commend you on is the navigation just feels nice. It's simple. It explains me exactly where I am. You're highlighting the particular page that I'm on. If I'm hovering over, you can see it's a different design as well. So it's a very simple navigation principle that is being utilized, and it allows me to understand exactly where I am. And whenever I switch between the pages, you're actually also changing the title. You might think that, come on, really, you're going to be highlighting that? Yes, because it's a simple thing, but it allows the user to feel more at home, right? He understands exactly what is happening. So the small little details matter. So first of all, congratulations on that. That's a very good approach and good job on that. What else? You have the possibility, of course, to reset. So if I, for example, select a supplier, I can reset and that clears out all the filters. But what you just saw right here as well, remember guys, I said that, and this is a common mistake. I understand that those are completely different dimensions, but whenever I select one here, or if I select one segment from the tree map visual, I'm left with just one column. So what I would recommend is just one of the options, right? Make this one block as a whole, create a separation in between them, but make it feel like a single block, maybe just a gray line in between or something like that, and disable the cross-chart filtering between each other. Since there's no additional level that you can drill down into, there's nothing to get confused about. If you filter out something here, well, there's just one single value here. If you filter out something here, there's just a single value right here. So it's just about the user experience. Okay? What else? There's a guide, very simple. Remember, the guides don't have to be complex. In some cases, less is more. So it's a very simple and just a quick explanation of what are the main things here. Navigation, reset, and guide. Well, you got here from the guide, so of course it's a guide. But here's also his LinkedIn, data science portfolio, his actual portfolio. So click anywhere on the page to return to the report view, which is a great note to add because he doesn't have, for example, an X, right, which people are naturally looking for. So that just allows me to understand that if I click anywhere, I'm actually going to be going back to the page. So that's one of the things. So good approach on that as well. What else? For the visuals right here, what I would have probably done is I'm not a big fan of skewing the sizes. So, so I understand why you did it because you wanted to have this right here. But what I would have done is something that you already seen in previous reports. For example, I think Onkar did it. Yeah. So this approach right here, where you have the metric inside of a donut chart, and then just showcase it right here. You don't need the time because that's already defined by the title of the visual. So you're just showcasing the overall number. Have it right here, and then these two donut charts would be exactly the same size. Visually, it would just be a lot more appealing. Like I said, it's not a big mistake, or let's say it's not unfixable. No, you can fix this in like 30 seconds to a minute. So it's a quick fix, but just pay attention to these things, guys, because this takes a lot of space away. Look at it. It takes like 20% of the chart, 25, something like that. So utilize the space as efficiently as possible. Remember, the space itself is a premium resource when it comes to report building. So you have to utilize it correctly. Other than that, if we go to production, we're focusing on the product itself, which is cool. See, this just feels a lot more nice, doesn't it? The charts are the same size. There is a bit of a slight deviation in the position, but it feels nice to have them the same size. So it's very, very important in that. For the cards, same principle. If you have 4 cards, they have to be aligned in a grid. I do something with the name, figure out what to do here, but make it easier for the end user. And again, the formatting for the value, guys. Because remember, okay, if it's thousands or tens of thousands, you can still kind of easily understand the number. But once it goes into hundreds of thousands or millions, that's when it becomes a real pain to read, right? Think about a number, 23,232,636. It's just a massive string of numbers, basically. And then you have to, well, I don't know how you do it, but why I do it, 3, 6, okay, so that's a million. That's 10 million. Okay, got it. That's how I do it, right? But I have to apply additional, basically, brain power to just read the number. Simple thousand delimiter or decimal delimiter, whatever is needed in that particular instance. Apply those, make it simple for the end user. For this one, everything seems good. The one thing that I would probably think about slightly is the spacing. So what you have done here, for those of you who haven't tried this, is the combo chart allows you to define how much width of the column you're utilizing or actually trying to take into account. And there's also a property under formatting options, which is called uh, column padding. Actually, let me see if I have a report that I could quickly show to you. I'm going to open the second screen and then quickly show to you what I mean about this. But essentially, don't leave these massive gaps in between if it's not needed. Sure, I get that you might want to increase the gap just a slight bit, right, to kind of separate them a bit. But these massive gaps feels like the space is not utilized efficiently. So it's just a quick comment about that. The cards itself, see, they're the same size, same position. It feels nice, but just adjust the formatting. So that's all good. You have applied conditional formatting, which is great. Like I said, learning to configure the tables is still going to be a very important skill to have. As much as we would love to get away from them, we still cannot do it because people have traditions and people have ways in how they are reading the data. And at one point, they still will want to go back to the row level entries. Trust me. Logistics, yeah, seems all good. The same approach for the chart, same coloring system, so that's all good. Supply chain retail analysis. Here, you actually utilize the completely different approach. See, for example, here, the cards are cards. If we go to retail, what you've done here is every single card is actually a switch. So it allows you to essentially use these as field parameters. So if it's something that you could utilize in other pages as well, always make sure to utilize the same principle. Because otherwise, if person doesn't know this, there's a high probability that when they come here, they're not going to be clicking on these. And if I click on a guide, yes, you have taken that into account. Perfect. That's very good. So make sure that if you introduce something new, you explain it to the user, right? So that's one cool thing. If these cards, what I probably would have done, and that's just my personal opinion, right? Since it's a new way on which hasn't been previously explored in the report, what I would have done is maybe for this particular page, right next to the name, add something like an informational icon. This would indicate to the user that there's something new that I can quickly check. And then when I hover over it, you could explain that, hey, these cards actually work as a switch for the value. It gives me a quick insight into things and I don't have to worry about it too much, right? So that's something always you can take into account. And a table, like I said, learning how to configure a table is always going to be a necessary skill. So this is a good approach. I haven't checked if it allows you to use as a drill through page from different properties, but it doesn't seem like it. So same comment as for Onkar. Add some drill through capabilities for the people. Just give them multiple ways on how to get to the table or to the row level entries, basically. So it's a great report, nevertheless. Congratulations in getting into the top 5. And yeah, looking forward to seeing your next reports. All right, before we go on to the next one, like I said, I wanted to quickly showcase what I meant by the spaces, and that's right here. So if I create a combo visual, I'm going to use HR. We're going to be using regions, for example. We're going to be using payout as my value. There we go. And I'm also going to be, I'm not even going to be splitting them. So there are a few things that you can do. Under series configuration, you can play around with how much of the total width are you giving to the column, right? That's one thing. And this is how some people visually create the gaps. But there's an alternative way. So you can still keep the 100% original width, but if you go to column padding, you have actually column padding left, right, and cluster padding left, right. And this is just to differentiate between two different things. So column padding allows you to create the gaps between individual charts. And this isn't the width percentage. This is a different calculation that's done behind it. You can see we can still have the gaps, but we're not taking too much away from it. Alternatively, if we use something else as, for example, we're not going to have too many departments, I think. Yeah. But this is another issue that you come across, for example. You can see that since I'm using column paddings, now it seems like there's no differentiation between clusters. So if you have clusters, then make sure that, for example, column paddings are smaller, but you increase the cluster paddings, thus creating the gaps between the actual clusters. So it's all up to customization. And like I said, the one thing about our visuals is they do have a lot of flexibility, which means there's a lot of responsibility to make sure that everything feels and looks nice, right? So just take these things into account. All right, going back to the top 5. You ready, guys? The next submission that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Ankan. Congratulations, man. Gotten into the top 5. So from Ankan, one thing that I can tell about him, this is his, in total, this is his 10th challenge, and he's finally gotten into the top 5. Persistence is key, right? You learn something new, you apply it to the next report, and you get better and better and better. That's what the whole thing is all about. All right, let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So the one thing that I can definitely say about this report, I like the way and how simple it is, in a sense that it's not too overcrowded. You have 5 KPIs, you have 5 visuals, it's not too much. One of the visuals is even a table, which means that it's focused more on the row level context. So the four main drivers are these visuals right here and some additional filters. So that approach I really love. Now, what I would have done here is similar to the previous report, make these gaps slightly smaller. One of the reasons why is because of the gaps, what you can see the chart has done in order to showcase the labels properly, it actually has hidden one of the bars. So by adjusting either the unit width or the spacings, you would allow the chart to actually have everything in a single view. Because not showing just one of them, kind of annoying. But it's not the end of the world. So that's one thing. The one thing that I love about this is how you made the scatter plot. And what you're essentially doing with this is you're allowing me to understand the revenue versus stock level. So you're allowing me to, first of all, identify which products are going to be with the highest revenue. So that's very important for me. And the other thing is you're also identifying and highlighting to me which products are bringing in a lot of money, but they're very low on stock. So I need to do something about this, right? And vice versa, you also indicated which products have high revenue but have okay stock, right? So one thing on how you could enhance this potentially would be, for example, if you would also tie the actual stock versus the amount of products being sold. So just to kind of create a correlation between those two numbers to so that I can understand, okay, I only have, for example, product with SKU18, right? I only have 10 of them in stock, but overall, how many of these products do I sell? So if we filter it out on a table, let's just wait. So we in total we've sold 620. If we would also have a timeline next to this, and that would be, for example, each month, then yeah, having just 10 in stock for a product that's giving me a lot of revenue when it usually sells 620, that's not just red, that's triple red, right? Add 5 exclamation marks, 6 pointers to it and saying, man, you gotta fix this. So there's different ways on how you can further on enhance it, right? So that's one thing that not necessarily you could have done in this particular report, but just something to think about, right? So that's, but overall, I love the scatter plot on how you created it. For the map visual, maybe would have played around slightly bit more with the clustering distance, just to make sure that these donuts, for example, don't overlap. So that's one of them. If we go to different pages, I like that the layout is the same. You're still utilizing scatterplot in different mechanisms, so to say, and the same approach, right? You can see high volume yet low manufacturing costs marked in green. So you're showcasing different aspects of things, but you're explaining also what you're doing here. So I love that about it. Other than that, very simple approach. Again, here you can see just, well, here you have a lot more because there's just a lot of entries. But for this one, again, one of them was hidden because of the size of the bar. So quickly adjusting that would be also great. Logistics and transportation, if we go here, other than that, I think it's all good. Yeah, this is all good. The one thing though that I would also take into consideration, just purely from a visual aspect, is maybe add something like based on the design, either white or this slime green. I don't know how to call this color. Just light blue green mix line right here, kind of to separate navigation from filters. Because right now they're exactly the same design. So a slight differentiation between the navigation and the filters that you apply would be very good as well. Just again to help out the user a bit, right? So we understand that these are two different things and it's going to be doing two different things. Other than that, congratulations to you, man. You have gotten into the top 5, and let's see, maybe you are also the winner for this month. So, you guys ready? The last submission that has gotten itself into the top 5 comes from Fabian Vicencio Islas. Congratulations to you, man. So let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. From Fabian, the fun fact that team has prepared for me is this is his 4th submission in total, and this is his first time into the top 5. So congratulations in getting to the top 5. All right, what do we have here? So the one thing that I like about it is that the cards are essentially a little bit more than just regular cards in a sense that it doesn't just showcase one number, but it also gives you a slight description of what it consists of. Now, I'm not saying that's the only way on how to do it or that's the best way, but it's a nice touch. The one thing that though that you have to be cautious about is, for example, you can see cosmetics, skincare, hair care. So there's 3 different properties. Now, if I select cosmetics here, we can just double check. Everything else gets filtered except the cards, which also gives me incorrect results now because we can see that the total revenue generated is 161,000, whereas the the split or the stack on how it's being generated in total is still being shown. So I would probably maybe then disable the or enable actually cross-chart filtering for both of these, just to make sure that if I'm seeing just cosmetics, then I only see cosmetics and there's no confusion as to what these other numbers represent, right? Um, Something you've seen before, same dimension. If I select something, I'm only left with a single column on the other side, right? See maybe if it's a better approach to have just field parameters to switch between the properties or the values rather than separating them into two different charts. So that's one thing. Whenever you create a color palette, be careful about the colors that you essentially assign to things. The reason why I'm focusing on this is going to be this chart right here. And you can see here that these three colors are great. We can definitely see them. But this one is getting kind of too close for comfort to white. So depending on the monitor brightness and the contrast of things, this color might not be visible for everyone. It's a very quick fix. Again, you don't have to spend hours upon hours trying to fix this, but it's just something to take a note of and just quickly fix it. Going to suppliers and manufacturing, different colors, different value labels, that's all good. The scatter plot, we can also select a chiclet slicer. I'm thinking this is the chiclet slicer or the new slicer. Not entirely sure. Oh, no, the new slicers are not yet available on services. Yeah, so chiclet slicer. But if you select something, hair care, skincare, or anything, same as previously, remember, now I'm just stuck with one category everywhere. So if this is the main driver, then make sure that everything else is showcasing something different. Yeah, field parameter use, great. Why have you been hiding this so long and not utilized this in different spaces? But it's a very good approach. Logistics was the one that caught me most off guard just because of one thing. Now, when you look at this page, is there something, guys, that you notice that just doesn't feel that it fits? Now, if you notice this visual, somebody probably as well noticed this slice right here, Delhi. Why blue? Why this color? There's nothing else in the report that is being represented in the same color. Well, except sort of mixed between these two. There's nothing else that shows you that color. So it just caught me off guard a little bit. That's it. Well, again, it's a very quick fix. Open up the visual category colors and just change the color. But it just kind of stands out. Other than that, what I like about the report is that it sort of conveys the story very well. So that's good. I would probably play around with the value labels a bit because having white on yellow isn't necessarily the best contrast. So you can lose these values quite easily. So maybe adding a background color to the value label would allow you to just highlight the value a bit more. So that's for that. What I mean by this is, let's see, do I have longitude and latitude in this? Yeah, I do. Perfect. So map, let's add longitude and latitude. Let's add a value of payout. There we go. We have the same default settings, right? So what I would have done is go for inside labels, background color, and just enable the background a bit more, play around with the font sizes, with the padding, for example, play around with the clustering is going to go for 90% so that these chart bigger. Still kind of hard to read, so maybe just increase the background opacity a bit higher, something like 80%, to make sure that the user sees the numbers. Like I said, a lot of these things are very easily fixed, so it's not like we're deducting massive points for that, but it's the overall experience that it affects. So these things do matter in general. All right, so we have gotten through the top 5. Now, before we announce the winner for the challenge, there are 2 additional reports that I want to quickly show to you and give a shout out to 2 people. And this is coming from not just me, but also from the rest of the team to just say, you were very close, guys. So one of the reports that was very close to getting into the top 5 was from Daniel Van Dogen. So congratulations to you, man. The overall opinion about the report itself, you can guys take a look at it closer, and I'll ask the team if it's possible to maybe post a link to this report also in the comments so you can check it out afterwards. But the overall sort of feeling about this is that with few modifications, this could be a really great report. Few design modifications and a few data sort of setup adjustments would make this an amazing report. So congratulations on getting the shout out as well, man. And another one is from Abdullah Al Gohari. And the one thing that we wanted to highlight on this one particularly, and this is what I love about the challenges, the different approaches that people take, is that this report is focusing on a completely different type of analysis that every single one of you did, right? His main analysis is to focus on the stages of the inspection, whether it passed, whether it's pending, whether it failed. Quite simple. It allows you to switch between the revenue as a value, cost as a value, or quantity as a value. Same goes right here. You can switch it for overall experience. You can switch it individually. You can then apply further on filters through the filter panels. You can reset everything. And there's even a guided tour for this. So it's an amazing report. It's very simple and it's very efficient, right? You're focusing on one particular aspect and you have covered it beautifully. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you guys for doing an amazing job. So we've gone through the top 5. Before we announce the winner itself, are there any questions that we currently have? Let's see. No questions. Okay, well, if no questions, then no questions. I think there was one about the PBIX files that I noticed. So yeah, guys, the PBIX files is something exactly, that's the one. So every single one of the reports you can find in our website. So for example, if you go to challenges, if you go to FB20 Analytics November, this is where it's currently at because it's still active in a sense. It's about to be getting closed. You can see it's already starting to change the dates for the next one. Oh, sorry, it's Onyx data. My apologies. You go for Onyx data, you open it up, you can see it's currently here. But after today, it's going to be right here at the bottom in the archive. So if you open up any of the challenges, even for the previous month, or yeah, but let's actually open up previous month so you just see how it looks. Open up the challenge, you're going to see the winner and every single one of the submissions. You can open up any one of them. So for example, you want to open up the winning submission, click on it, and you can download the PBIX file. We're always trying to give you as much information as possible. We're always trying to give you ways on how to learn. There's also LinkedIn profiles for the authors of the report, so you can reach out to them. This is what helps you to do better. So you have a lot of opportunities to make even better reports, guys. So one thing we can quickly do, Sabina, can you quickly hide the screen? I'm going to open up the winner. Perfect. Let me just make sure it's the correct one. You know, don't want to fail at this moment. Just want to make sure that it's the right report. Okay, so a little bit of a drum roll. And the winner for the November Onyx Data Challenge is Misha Riaz. Congratulations to you, man. In our opinion, overall, this was the best report that we've seen in this particular challenge. So congratulations to you. And for those of you who didn't win, don't get too worried about it. It's not just about winning, it's about making better reports, making your own portfolio, and learning new things. Special thanks or shout out to, again, those who got into the top 5. Congratulations to you. For those of you who got the shout out, amazing work. You can make even better reports. I'm more than sort of sure about it. And for those of you who didn't get into the top five, like I said, don't get too discouraged about this. This is what allows you these challenges. There's going to be a new one next month. Get better, make amazing reports, showcase something new, go for a completely different approach. Just amaze us. You have all the tools, you have all the resources, you have us, you have the webinars, you have the sessions, you have the webinars email, you have recordings from the previous sessions. There's like thousands of hours of content that we can give to you, but just don't get too caught up on the fact that you, for example, didn't, I don't know, participated for the third time and you didn't get into the top five, right? Like I said, for example, for Ankan, this was the 10th submission and he's finally gotten into the top five. So it's all about persistence. All right, well, if there's no other questions, there's nothing really more that I wanted to say, except good luck to you guys. I'll see you in the next challenge, and I'll see you in the workshop, next top five announcement. I'm still going to be here at the end of the day. All right, everyone, have an amazing rest of the day. I'll see you in the next challenge, and make sure to deliver the best result that you can. Bye, everyone.